Every year, up to 700,000 old vehicles are just dumped in England and Wales, and many, like this one, are set on fire. Not only are they an eyesore, but they're also an environmental hazard. And the problem is likely to get much worse soon when new laws come into force requiring owners to pay to dispose of their vehicles. Instead of doing that, many are likely to do this. Gathering up abandoned cars is already a huge task, and it's going to get even bigger. It's bad enough when they've been left on streets, but what about when they're dumped in the middle of the countryside? In places like this. The new laws are an attempt by the EU to get more old cars recycled, and from 2007, car makers will be responsible for safely disposing of all vehicles that have reached the end of their lives. But the UK is bringing in the measures this spring. So for the next 4 years, it'll be up to car owners, not car makers, to foot the bill for them being scrapped.
In years gone by, the scrap man used to pay you to come and take your car away. Now if you want to get it recycled, you yourself have got to pay. There are something like 1.8 million cars per annum reach the end of their life in a year. That's 5,000 a day, a huge problem for us.
And will it get worse, do you think?
It's certainly going to get worse over the next few years until the new legislation really comes in. And what we've got to do is work together with government, with local government and at national level, and with the recycling industry to get this problem out of the countryside, off the streets, and get cars into the recycling system.
This wood is part of an area of outstanding natural beauty just outside Brighton and Hove. There are arable fields around, and it's at least half a mile from the nearest road. But nevertheless, this is what it's become, a graveyard for abandoned cars. There are at least 15 of them here, ruining the landscape. Not only that, dumped vehicles leak things like oil, battery acid and hydraulic fluid, polluting the countryside and contaminating watercourses. And when they're torched, surrounding trees and scrubland can catch fire as well. But when you come across a scene like this, what's your reaction?
Well, it's quite a shock, really. I mean, you get used to finding the odd car that's been abandoned or where joyriders have left it, but to find this many cars is quite unexpected.
I mean, in Brighton and Hove, there are a lot of cars abandoned on the streets, aren't there? And you can deal with those.
Yeah, I mean, the council has a contract with a recovery firm and they can just drive up to one on the road and winch it up and take it away. But obviously, vehicles out here in the countryside like this are much harder to deal with. They can't get a tow truck near enough to them to collect them.
And if you do manage to move all these wrecks out, how long do you think it'll take for the wood to recover?
It'll probably take quite a long time till it fully recovers, but obviously once we've got rid of them and we've picked up as much as the material on the ground as we can, then the woods can start to recover. Some help is at hand, though, in the shape of a volunteer team of explorers and adventurers who formed a group called Ecosalvage to retrieve wrecks from difficult places. The car I talked about at the beginning of this report is next on their list.
On speaking to a countryside warden, they said that yes, they did have many cars in inaccessible places and that normal recovery firms can't actually get to them because of the nature of where they are. They don't have the equipment, the training, the skills. So I thought, well, this isn't a job for a recovery firm, this is more a job for an expedition firm because we are used to getting to remote, inhospitable, inaccessible places.
And just how difficult is this particular car to get out? This
is one of the more tricky ones. We've got a one-in-one slope. We can't get a vehicle within 150 metres of where this car is located, hence using an exceptionally long rope. We don't want to damage the environment. If you simply just try and drag that thing, you're going to leave half the car behind.
So it's up on the trailer now and it's going to be winched up this hill?
Well, towed up, yes. Well, basically we've got some pulley blocks at the top. Our recovery vehicle drives across at a 90-degree angle. This will then be towed up the hill, but it's a slow and dangerous operation and we've obviously got to make sure everyone's clear because there are potential hazards. Right, mind your backs, mind your back.
We've just watched a very complex recovery job on a car being done by volunteers. But should that work really be left to volunteers?
Certainly the volunteers here are doing a great job for our environment and countryside. This is part of the problem that we're working on with central and local government to ensure that the whole issue is solved.
Well, these dumped cars are a huge environmental problem, and you're paying for this with your own money, this scheme. Should it be left to volunteers?
No, it shouldn't. It's got to such an epidemic stage. If 700,000 cars are being dumped per year, from our reports and figures, we're looking at 1%. 7,000 are in inaccessible locations. I think that works out, what, 22 a day we have to recover just to keep up.
And I hope you guys have got a lot of spare time, because there's an awful lot of these cars around in awkward places.
We've had reports of 7 at the bottom of Beachy Head. Apparently one in Kent is 20 foot up a tree. How it got there, we don't know.
But you've got to get it down.
Yeah, we have about 2,000 cars logged onto our website already, and they've been there between 10 and 20 years. No one can shift them.
This was just one of more than 30 wrecks the team recovered last week. But it's going to need much more than this volunteer effort to stop the countryside being swamped by old cars in the next few years.